that we call memory, which are thoughts about something that apparently happened in the past, need to be related to for what they are, an object, a thought object arising in the present moment. They can create the impression of a past, whereas we don't actually know whether that happened or not. But we can see that an object, a thought object, arises in the present moment, and it tells us that there is or there was a past. So if we stop relating to that object, that memory, as something absolutely true, and relate to it as just an object arising in the present moment, we might find that being here now is something more available. So being present with the experience as it presents each moment, being aware of it as an experience, can change the way everything
Sorry.
And if you close your eyes, the present moment experience changes radically. If the idea that there is a world outside of us that is still there and we have just closed our eyes, if that idea falls away and attention comes to what we might refer to as the back of the eyelids, we might notice that there is this vast open space. Attention can come to the present moment experience as it's presenting itself right now, which is really radically different in content to what we could call the daily living experience. The visual objects that we are so used to are not present. And we might be able to appreciate that the daily living experience that we are familiar with is made up heavily by the visual component of the experience. So thoughts may still arise as part of this momentary experience. Sound can still be part of the momentary experience. What remains constant is the awareness that is aware of the experience. And if you were to open your eyes now, the experience changes radically again. It's still a momentary experience arising in consciousness. But from one instant to the next, it can change radically. The experience is always changing. And it's always an experience. And what is here, present, simultaneous with the experience, is the awareness, aware of the experience in this moment. The same awareness that is always there. So if you close your eyes again and bring attention to what you might refer to as the back of the eyelids, and be really present with the experience, meaning present with what is. The idea that there is a body sitting in a room can fall away. That is not part of the present moment experience. Any sense of touch that may be part of the experience can be registered. However, we might notice that there could be a whole lot of thoughts that are telling us what that sense of touch is. Could be thoughts saying that that is my thigh touching the chair. That's actually quite possibly just a residual thought from a previous experience. So being present with the experience as it is means exactly that. So thoughts about an external world can be seen to be exactly that, just a thought, not necessarily a representation, of what's really available to us in this moment. If we if we can't find ourselves able to sit still, not necessarily still, but comfortably, without doing anything, for 5 or 10 minutes, then a quest for peace in life is going to be very hard. It's an indication that if we're always moving, forced to move because of an uncomfortableness or an inability, unavailability of a place that is calm and quiet and peaceful, then that's an important thing for us to notice. And if we notice this, then maybe we'll have an interest to try and cultivate a capacity to sit longer than is what's normally available to us. One thing's for sure, that we're not going to find comfort on a continuous basis outside, which means the happiness available is a happiness and a contentment, a peace inside. So in order for an object to be part of the experience, it needs to be within consciousness. I'm not talking about some hypothetical or theoretical consciousness, but within your own field of consciousness. If it was outside of your field of consciousness, you wouldn't be aware of it. So everything that you are aware of is existing within your field of awareness. So is any part of the experience outside of you? The whole experience that you are aware of must be within and not outside. So the idea of your things inside you and outside of you, when looked at from this perspective, no longer holds true. So what am I if the whole experience is within what I am and not outside what I am? The body is also an object, part of the experience, an object arising within the consciousness that you are. The thoughts are objects arising within consciousness. If they are experienced, if they are here, they are part of the experience. And anything within the experience has to be within the field of awareness, the field of consciousness. Once again, not some consciousness separate from what you are, but your consciousness, the consciousness, the awareness. If this is the case, that all objects of experience arise inside what I am, and then we go round knowing ourselves as something which is outside of the objects in daily living, then there's some reconciliation that needs to take place. Maybe if we know ourselves as an object that has many other objects outside of it, we're bound to feel uncomfortable. If in fact what we are is something in which all the objects arise. So there is a quietness that you can live life from. And if you find that there isn't a quietness, it's useful to see what is there that is covering the quietness up. So what do we want from life? Life doesn't always give us what we expect. So I don't have much to say today. If anyone has anything to say, you're welcome to use the microphone.
So there's a nice, calm, good feeling inside while one relaxes in I am. But there's also this thing of let's do the talks and let me take down everything that I can, because I can always do that on my own. The being in I am. But in this scenario, in this group, it feels deeper to just be. It's more relaxing, but still this comes up that let's not, time is precious and you're going to leave in 4 days, so let's get as much as we can somehow. And it's the doer.
Yeah, so waiting to get something.
It's not like just sitting in I am is also giving a lot. It's both are great.
So what we're looking for in life, whether we realize it or not, is happiness for the human being. And happiness for the human being is peace of mind in daily living. And peace of mind is just the end of suffering. It is life lived without the thinking mind in action.
Namaste, Rajar. First of all, I wanted to check. I dropped in the middle of the session. I wonder if I disturbed it.
No, you didn't miss anything.
No, did I disturb it, like with a knocking and then the whole...
No, it's fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Right here in this moment, I am seeing that there was quite a peace of mind, except this question, did I disturb it? And I was a little bit apologetic about it, if I did. But I also felt that even though I'm not thinking about something right now or constantly, or it's not holding me so hard, I felt an energetic contraction in my body, especially in my stomach area, and as if it's being clutched like this. And it has happened earlier also. It's not something I'm unaware of or unknown to me, but I don't understand it. And even though there is an acceptance that when it happens, and when it passes, still the wonder, and in that moment, because it takes all the attention, it's definitely a small form of suffering in that moment. I don't know what it is to you. Because I'm asking, because sometimes when I'm aware what it is, the whole wondering drops. It's kind of, okay, this is it. When I don't know, sometimes the wondering keeps, oh, what is this? Why am I feeling so contracted at a certain place? Something like that. Even though there's nothing troubling me on a mental level, but it's just very physical.
It's an object in the present moment experience.
So then that's it.
Why not?
Okay. Because sometimes I feel like I'm not breathing. I can't breathe because my whole attention is there, struggling with the fact that there's such a strong contraction here. But I'm very eager to take your word just for that.
No, you don't take my word for it. Just recognize that each moment is an experience made up of a whole lot of different colors, flavors, a lot of different components, you could say, a single experience, and we can bring attention to different parts of the experience, so it looks like different components. And what you described is a component of the present moment experience when it's there. And if the breathing becomes labored, the breathing in a labored form is another part of the present moment experience. So if you can bring attention to the present moment experience as an experience, nothing personal. You didn't create it. It's undeniably there. Then these questions can fall away. And if they remain, they're part of the present moment experience. And you can become aware of that question as an object, a component of the singular present moment experience. Just as if you were looking at a painting and you look in the top right hand corner and there's a splash of yellow paint. And in the bottom left hand corner there's a splash of blue paint. They're all components of the single creation, in this case, in this example, the painting. In this experience, it's not just a visual experience, it's a multi-sensory experience, including feelings and thoughts and emotions and the sense of existence. An experience that isn't static but ever-changing. And we're aware of it. What's aware of it? The person, the body, is also an object, a component of the present moment experience. And any thinking is an object of this ever-changing present moment experience. And life as we know it is the present moment experience in its ever-changing form. So, standing on the edge or being out on North Main Road is the present moment experience, and clearly plenty of movement. And the body is part of that experience. And there is awareness aware of it. The awareness is untouched by it. Untouched by all of the objects that arise and fall in the present moment space of now. And if we're thinking about that, then these are going to be just words. But if attention comes to the present moment experience, which it can do at any moment because the experience is always here, and if it's understood that to be aware of what's here now doesn't require us to be thinking about it. In fact, if we're thinking and the thinking thinks that the more that we think about what is said, the more likely we are going to understand what is said, then the least likely we are to understand what is being said. And yet, if we bring attention to the experience as it is right now, the visual components being a large component of the present moment experience, all of it arising inside a field of awareness. importantly, recognizing the body as part of the visual experience.
It seems so simple when you say it. Why is it so difficult to bring the attention to the present moment?
It might be because you're not sure what it means to be present with the present moment experience. Just pick the visual aspect of the present moment experience to be present with. That's enough. And so if I say that, be aware of the visual component of the present moment experience as if it is a painting, a moving painting, hanging in a museum. How difficult is that?
It's when you're in a museum and it's a visual painting, you really have, it's a controlled environment. You're with the painting, there are no distractions. It's easier to appreciate and to look at it and be more with it and be more focused on it. But when you're on North Main Road, maybe not so easy. Or if you're in the middle of an argument with someone, again, it doesn't seem like a painting.
We're asking, you can do it now. That's the point. This is no more or less controlled than when you're in a museum. But you don't seem to be doing it.
I am. I'm here and now with you in this room. But it's not just the eyes are there, it's a visual experience, but there's also thoughts going on. There's feelings in the body. It's got components.
That's why I suggest focusing on one aspect of the present moment experience, and that aspect I suggested is the visual component.
Okay.
which is hard to do when you're writing. If you open your gaze, so you're not focusing on a specific object, you get to see a much broader visual experience. So you can soften your gaze and allow the whole visual experience to arise within your field of awareness. There doesn't need to be focus on anything in particular. Some parts will be the bits that we know as our peripheral vision will be blurred, maybe. Might realize that the whole wall fits into your field of awareness with no effort. All the people fit into your field of awareness and are part of the complete visual experience. And if you close your eyes, you'll notice that the experience in an instant completely changes. The room vanishes. And then the visual experience is of a very different nature. The experience that remains is still an experience. All arising in the field of awareness. We've been dragged out in life to be completely involved in what's happening, in a way that we lose touch with the fact that this is a momentary experience arising in consciousness. Means we've lost touch with our inner landscape. So we can't stand quietly and just allow everything to be as it is. We're always trying to get somewhere. So it helps to allow the center of consciousness to drift down into the chest area, as if it's dragged down by gravity. And maybe we can get the sense that there is an awareness of the present moment experience, not through the eyes, not through the body even, but from a less located sense. This is the only place that we'll find that is peaceful on an ongoing, unbroken basis. All the words in the talks are simply pointing out that which gets in the way of resting in being. And so this is a different approach that has to become part of our repertoire. We have to find an interest in resting and being with the present moment experience, allowing it to be as it is, and knowing it as an experience arising within a field of awareness. This movement needs to start happening regularly. It's the only space in which we can rest where the thinking mind doesn't take over. And at first it can seem like quite an effort to be here. Can seem boring, pointless, uncomfortable. And yet, I repeat that if we don't find a connection to this place, then peace in daily living is unlikely to present itself.
Roger, I'm sure I didn't get it. And still I feel very excited, thrilled, which is also a repetition many times, at the potential of what you're pointing to. So I want to question more. It seems like it's an attempt to understand from the mind, and seems like maybe I'll get it if I get it through that. But what I find is that when you point it, all the visual, like a moving painting in a museum, and including this body, this is the most difficult thing to unbelieve, it seems, because the localization effect is so strong. It seems like I enter the painting through this body immediately, or I can't leave this painting because this localized effect, something like that. I don't know if I'm able to explain anything.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just a belief? Can this be unbelieved? Or
It's not so much whether you believe it or not. It's about looking at the present moment experience as described, meaning recognize it's everyone's experience that the present moment experience is here right now. You can see my hand. You are aware of my hand. It's part of the present moment experience, along with everything else that you're aware of. What I'm talking about requires no effort. It's already happening. An awareness of the present moment experience. You're always aware of the present moment experience. I'm just asking there to be an awareness of the present moment experience. Why that doesn't happen is because it's always there. In our experience, the present moment experience is always here, and so we are uninterested in it. It's nothing special. Whereas becoming aware of the fact that we are aware of the present moment experience and being aware of it as an experience. That's all that's being asked. And if there is awareness of the fact that you are aware of the table and the chair, then that same awareness that is aware of the table and the chair as an object may well find that the body too is an object, just like the table and the chair, in this very present moment experience. The body has always been part of the present moment experience, and there has always been an awareness of the hand and the leg. So why can't we have a recognition of the fact that in this moment, in every moment, in any moment that we've ever lived, there is a single present moment experience. It's what we've always been aware of. It doesn't require any new effort to be aware of the couch. We've always been aware of it means to see it. If we weren't aware of it, we wouldn't see it. So awareness doesn't require any new effort. It's always been happening.
Today is a silent day, but today I'm more provoked to ask more questions. Awareness of the object of the present moment does not take effort, but I feel the effort is in being aware of this awareness, and that too at a continuous basis.
The effort is required to be aware of the awareness.
Yeah, to be always aware that there is an awareness of the present moment. It's like...
Well, actually, the surprising thing is I'm not even asking us to be always aware. It's the simple acknowledgement that right now there is awareness of all of the what we call objects. Can you acknowledge that there is an awareness of the body called Roger?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's nothing new for you in your life. You've always been aware of your parents, your friends, the cars outside, the furniture. Right? That's the basis of life. Awareness. And so if there is the acknowledgement, yes, I'm always aware. That acknowledgement is the awareness of being aware.
Okay. This acknowledgement is not present.
Is not?
The acknowledgement is not acknowledged or is not present until I bring my attention to this and acknowledge it again.
Well, no, once you understand that to see the camera means that you are aware of it. To see the person means you are aware of them. Means that by default, once this is understood, by default when you are in daily life, there is awareness of awareness without any effort, because with the acknowledgement that, I am always aware. That is why I know daily life. Because I'm aware. So once that's been understood, which we've just done that, you're aware of my hand, right? You've always been aware of life in the waking state. So you've always been aware. And so now an awareness of being aware doesn't require anything more than for you to be aware of an object. To bring your attention to the present moment and be aware of, I suggest, you keep it to the visual experience and the sound experiences that are always present in daily living. So as soon as you remember to bring attention to the momentary experience that's here, that which you are aware of, the very fact that you are consciously bringing awareness to the fact that you are aware of the present moment experience is awareness of awareness in the present moment.
It sounds synonym to being with oneself, like when I'm with myself, like aware of my own self, then everything else appears as an object that I'm aware of separately. But there's also a lot of forgetfulness of this, and I know I'm being persistent.
Sure, but I think the forgetfulness happens because we haven't necessarily registered the simplicity of what is being pointed at, and we think that being aware of ourself is something very unavailable, and maybe one day it will happen. And so maybe that misunderstanding is what keeps us from registering the fact that we are aware. So I repeat that if you hear a sound, it's because there is awareness functioning in this moment. If you see a bird, it is because there is awareness functioning in this moment. If you hear my voice, it's because there is awareness functioning. When you see someone arguing with you, it's because there is awareness functioning. If you hear their words, it's because there is awareness. We only know daily life experience because there is awareness. So when this very simple fact is understood, that, oh, I know the floor and the tree and the couch and the people because of awareness. Then when the thinking mind, which is what seems to drag, what we can say seems to drag our awareness away, and it doesn't really. What the thinking mind is a very predominant object, and awareness becomes aware of that object. Awareness is aware of that object when the thinking mind is happening. It's just so designed that that object, the thinking mind thoughts, have the capacity to create a certain experience. And so the suggestion is, whenever there is a recognition that the thinking mind is what we are aware of, and the thinking mind is what we're aware of when the thinking mind is functioning, then that's what awareness is aware of. And so when that happens, just remember to bring your attention back to the present moment experience. It's just redirecting awareness onto a different set of objects. And when awareness is directed onto the visual and the sound objects, we don't need to do anything about that. They are just visual and sound objects arising. And there is a different sense to being aware of the present moment experience while focusing on the visual side of things, there is a different sense than when awareness is aware of the thinking mind. So whenever there's an uncomfortableness, it's because what we're aware of is the thinking mind. So if we can broaden the focus of our attention, and we broaden the focus of attention most effectively by coming into the neutral presence of what is right now. And what we'll find is that we can come and maybe be present with the visual experience, and we can notice that it goes from the thinking mind to a quietening down of the thinking mind, because our attention is now present with just the visual and sound objects. And then awareness gets dragged back onto the thinking mind, because the thinking mind has a very strong momentum. That's a natural movement at first. And when it's recognized that awareness is aware of the thinking mind, because that's what is being experienced. So if that's what's being experienced, it means awareness is aware of that which is being experienced. And so we remember maybe to come back to the present moment visual and sound experience with nothing to do, nothing to change, just to be aware of it as it is. When you go into a museum and you're looking at a painting, they don't ask you to correct any of the features on the painting. They don't give you a set of colored paints for you to make corrections. Just become aware of it as it is. It's not your job to change it. And each time we come back and become aware of the visual and sound aspects of the present moment experience, with no need or intention or role of changing it, but rather just to allow it to be here, we're coming out of the thinking mind, or attention is shifting from the thinking mind to presence. Now, really, whether it's present with this or the thinking mind, it's still presence. But there is a specific qualitative difference, because the objects of the thinking mind are objects that have very particular characteristics. They are not neutral. They have characteristics that give the experience a sense of taking life personally. And so we are fully aware when we're feeling that in our life. It's because there is awareness of those objects. And it feels uncomfortable because the quality of those objects is uncomfortableness with oneself and with the other and with life. So that's why there is the uncomfortableness, because there is awareness of those objects. So the suggestion is bring your awareness, what we call back here, and become aware of the present moment experience, primarily focusing on the visual components and the sound components. And you might see that this is a shifting from one gear to another, a shifting from awareness of the thinking mind to awareness of the absence of the thinking mind. And there's a very different quality when we're aware of life and the thinking mind isn't the object that we're aware of. So if this starts to be your experience, you can start finding this happening more and more regularly during the day, because you can be walking from point A to point B with awareness on the thinking mind. And in an instant, when there is a recognition, awareness is on the thinking mind, and the thinking mind is usually thoughts about the past and the future, complaints about the present, and it's all very uncomfortable. And so when that's recognized, we just remember to come back to a connection with our true self, because this is what we can call the false self, the belief that all of these things in the past were very important, all of the things in the future are very important. And we can live our whole life aware of those objects, primarily aware of those objects, occasionally becoming aware of the road, and maybe simultaneously, but with the thinking mind objects, essentially infusing the whole experience. And so a realization that these are objects, and objects in the present moment experience, and if attention is brought to a specific range of objects, I'm suggesting the visual and the sound experience, the thinking mind tends to fade into the background or dissolve for as long as attention is here. Now, a characteristic of what I'm talking about is that we'll probably only be able to remain with attention on the visual and sound object for a second or two before being dragged back up into what seems like much more important. And if somewhere in our system we've understood that all of that thinking about the past and the future is actually an error about who we are, it's part of what keeps us suffering. Not only part, it's all of what keeps us suffering. And at any moment, if there is the remembrance and if the body-mind organism has been equipped in order for this movement to happen, there can be a dropping into another view of the present moment. A view that is much more spacious, and in the instant of dropping down, it's like, here I am. I'm back to presence. And then 3 seconds later, we might be dragged back to that other object, the thinking mind object, that seems much more relevant, much more important. You know, it's like, I can be aware of the cars on the road at any time. But for now, it's much more important that I go back to blaming the person for what they did 10 years ago. That's a sort of automatic movement. So I'm just putting words onto it, where the system has prioritized suffering over presence. And each time we drop back down here, we're changing the priority. And for a while, we keep getting brought up there, not by accident, but because the priorities have been set differently for our whole life, where this thinking mind has been assumed to be something very worthwhile, something that will get us where we need to go, and we're changing that. Each time we remember to become present with the present moment, become aware while being present with the present moment that the body is also an object. Let's not leave the body out of the visual component. Right? And maybe we might realize, something broader than the body, is aware of this whole visual experience. And it's effortless, right? It's always been that same thing that has been aware of whatever has been happening in our life from the moment that we were developed enough to have awareness functioning through us. It's been the same broader awareness that has registered every moment of life. And so if we allow the body to be part of the visual experience and realize there is a broader awareness that is aware of the whole experience, we are and rest in that for longer and longer periods as this movement becomes more and more habituated, a movement out of the thinking mind into presence. Let's just call it like that for now. So it's really, in a way, effortless. Now I'll contradict myself. The effort is to drop out of the thinking mind that has a whole lot of momentum. We're going to get dragged back in. That's inevitable. And for a while it feels like there's effort to just remain there for half a second. Can we just stay there half a second longer before getting interested in the thinking mind again? And it becomes less and less effortless as the thinking mind gets weaker and weaker. Until eventually, this is our home. This is where we live life from. There's an intermediate phase where the thinking mind thoughts are still present, and yet awareness is much more on the visual and the sound objects. The thinking mind objects then become like one of the objects, but they don't have the same power of dragging all attention there. And that's an intermediate phase, which is great relief, because we see the thinking mind is still active, but it doesn't have the same intensity that it did before. Awareness is now aware of a broader set of objects, the thinking mind being one of them. But now it's not exclusively focused on that. Simple.
Thank you, Roger. It's on being reminded, I'm made aware of my forgetfulness, is how it appears. Thank you so much.
But really, the forgetfulness is not your forgetfulness, but rather the fact that the present moment experience often includes this very unique object, which we can call the thinking mind thoughts. And when those objects are present, the rest of the experience falls into the background, or at least is infused by the quality of the thinking mind thoughts. And when that object is there, and it's a moving object, it's a changing object of thoughts, basically a commentator, we're dragged up there, And that is what we're calling our forgetfulness. Right? That being dragged up there is what we say, oh, I forgot that what I am is really outside of that awareness of those objects. And I forgot to be present with what is on a broader basis. So these words are always limited because we say, I forgot to be present with what is. But another way of looking at it is when you're present, when there is awareness of the thinking mind, that is what is. So even then there is presence with what is, but it has a certain qualitative feel that is not optimal, not peace of mind. And so when we recognize that and we recognize there is another gear, which is to become aware of other objects, and in becoming present with the visual and sound objects, we also become present with the awareness, the broader awareness that is aware of all of them, and the sense of existence. So that's why we can call it a forgetfulness, because we forgot to be aware of what I am at my core. But even forgot is not your forgetting, but rather what life has dictated by creating the present moment experience the way it has, which often includes the thinking mind. So you're not forgetting, but forgetting is happening. And when there is a realization that forgetting is happening, and the body then refocuses, or awareness refocuses on the present moment experience in a broader sense, we could call that a remembering that the present moment in a broader sense is available always, right? Because life is always happening. So at any moment you can become aware of the broader present moment experience, which is why we're told, there's nothing for you to do, there's nowhere for you to go, right? You don't have to become better. You don't have to do lots of seeking. And there's an irony to that, or it's not entirely true, because you need to have done enough seeking for life to have delivered, let's say, the instructions that are being delivered now, that allow, at some point, hopefully from now on, a remembering to happen. And the remembering in an instant means you don't have to go anywhere. It means, I just need to remember to be present with the broader present moment experience. Which, when that movement becomes really natural, not only is there nowhere to go, but there's an effortless dropping into being, we can call it. And it's like, here I am in an instant, from suffering to peace. And when we drop into peace, it's like, here I am. I forgot that I am here and at peace when the thinking mind isn't telling me otherwise.